workshop of the mind. We all imagine. Sometimes that takes the form of daydreams, meditation, or artistic creation. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon emphasized how the imagination can be put to use to achieve financial success. Imagine in your mind's eye the many ways that imagination, coupled with desire, can lead to riches. This book can help you reach your goal. The mind is amazing in its complexity. It has many facets and powers. One is its capacity for persistence. Persistence permits one to deal with failure, to recognize that it is only a temporary setback and can be overcome. Napoleon said that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. That's a brilliant insight, but one that relies on persistence for its fulfillment. In these excerpts from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon sets forth how persistence can be developed and how the lack thereof can be recognized and overcome. Napoleon Hill recognized that two minds are better than one, and indeed that two minds in sync are better than two minds working independently. For when acting together in harmony toward a common purpose, the minds become bigger than the sum of their parts. This is yet another fascinating truth about the power of the mind that is explained in Think and Grow Rich. Henry Ford and Mahatma Gandhi are two men who recognized and used the mastermind principle to achieve virtually unimaginable goals, and their stories appear in this book. Napoleon also recognized the power of the mind to overcome the debilitating effects of fear. His famous explanation of how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear concludes this special edition, for it shows how the mind can not only achieve monetary success through the use of desire, imagination, persistence, and the mastermind principle, but also produce lasting happiness and peace of mind by overcoming the fears that can plague all of us. The Napoleon Hill Foundation is proud to present these profound and essential truths about the power of the mind that appear in Think and Grow Rich. Many people tell us that this is the most influential book they have ever read, aside perhaps from their scriptures. We hope you will agree and benefit from the timeless treasures in this magnificent book. Don N. Green, Executive Director and Trustee of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Well, what I'm going to try to do now is just hit a couple chapters here and give you some of the points that are outlined here. And let me tell you, I'm not going to editorialize too much or make very many comments because I'm reading from the greatest master of them all on personal success, philosophy of success. He invented it. But I do want to clarify one thing that may or may not come out in some of the things I read. The title, Think and Grow Rich, a lot of people don't read this book because they think it's about money. Well, when I talked to Don Green this morning and thanked him and told him how I was so blessed that I met him and got turned on to Napoleon Hill at such an early age, thanked him for the book, he told me that, a lot of people don't understand. Being rich is not just about money. In fact, money is just a small component of it. As you read Napoleon Hill, you will start to understand what a richer, fuller life is, and it follows right along with the principles of the Bible for the riches and the abundance of the Lord. So let me just start to do this now. In reading in the first chapter on desire, it's going to give you the method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It is not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. Be definite as to the amount. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such reality as something for nothing. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not to put this plan into action. Fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan for which you intend to accumulate it. Sixth, read your written statement aloud, twice daily, once just before retirement at night and once after arising in the morning. Wow. Yeah, that's some pretty strong advice. So when you get down here, definite of purpose, the definition that he's got in this chapter is, definite of purpose is the knowledge of what one wants and a burning desire to possess it. That's pretty strong stuff. From the chapter on imagination goes into ideas. I'm going to just read a little excerpt here that I find very interesting. Ideas are intangible forces, but they have more power than the physical brains that gave birth to them. They have the power to live on after the brain that creates them has returned to dust. For example, take the power of Christianity. That began with a simple idea born in the brain of Christ. Its chief tenet was, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Christ has gone back to the source from which he came, but his idea goes marching on. Someday it may grow up and come into its own. Then it will have fulfilled Christ's deepest desire. The idea has been developing only 2,000 years. Give it time. I really like that. He's just said something really very briefly there that you got to have patience. Along with all these other things that we're doing, you better have patience. Okay, so let me continue here with the next part that I want to give to you. This next part is going to be one of my favorite parts that I want to bring to you. It's chapter 3, the sustained effort necessary to produce success. It's about persistence. And perseverance is one of my strongest suits. I just sort of hang in there and just keep knowing that everything is going to move forward. I've learned not to kick myself too hard, but I have faith, and I know that the Lord's going to take care of me. So I'm going to read this a lot out of this next chapter because I think it's critically important. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of will. The majority of people are ready to throw their aims and purposes overboard and give up at the first sign of opposition or misfortune. A few carry on despite all opposition until they attain their goal. These few are the Fords, Carnegies, Rockefellers, and Edisons. Persistence is a state of mind. Therefore, it can be cultivated. Like all states of mind, persistence is based upon definite causes. Among them, these. 1. Definiteness of purpose. Knowing what one wants is the first and perhaps the most important step toward the development of persistence. A strong motive forces one to surmount many difficulties. 2. Desire. It is comparatively easy to acquire and to maintain persistence in pursuing the object of intense desire. 3. Self-reliance. Belief in one's ability to carry out a plan encourages one to follow the plan through with persistence. 4. Definiteness of plans. Organized plans, even though they may be weak and entirely impractical, encourage persistence. 5. Accurate knowledge. Knowing that one's plans are sound, based upon experience or observation, encourages persistence. Guessing instead of knowing destroys persistence. 6. Cooperation. Sympathy, understanding, and harmonious cooperation with others tend to develop persistence. 7. Willpower. The habit of concentrating one's thoughts upon the building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose leads to persistence. 8. Habit. Persistence is the direct result of habit. The mind absorbs and becomes a part of the daily experiences upon which it feeds. Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by forced repetition of acts of courage. Everyone who has seen active service in war knows this. I'm going to immediately follow up with the next section of the book, which describes symptoms of lack of persistence. 1. Failure to recognize and to clearly define exactly what one wants. 2. Procrastination, with or without cause, usually backed up with a formidable array of alibis and excuses. 3. Lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. 4. Indecision, the habit of passing the buck on all occasions instead of facing issues squarely, also backed by alibis. 5. The habit of relying upon alibis instead of creating definite plans for the solution of problems. 6. Self-satisfaction. There is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. 7. Indifference, usually reflected in one's readiness to compromise on all occasions rather than meet opposition and fight it. 8. The habit of blaming others for one's mistakes and accepting unfavorable circumstances as being unavoidable. 9. Weakness of desire, due to neglect in the choice of motives that impel action. 10. Willingness, even eagerness, to quit at the first sign of defeat. 11. Lack of organized plans, placed in writing where they may be analyzed. 12. The habit of neglecting to move on ideas or to grasp opportunity when it presents itself. 13. The habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. General absence of ambition to be, to do, and to own. 14. Wishing instead of willing. 15. Searching for all the shortcuts to riches, trying to get without giving a fair equivalent. usually reflected in the habit of gambling, endeavoring to drive sharp bargains. 16. Fear of criticism, failure to create plans and to put them into action because of what other people will think, do, or say. This enemy belongs at the head of the list because it generally exists in one's subconscious mind. I'm going to continue reading this next part because I want each of you to think, does this apply to you? Is this your life? Let us examine some of the symptoms of the fear of criticism. The majority of people permit relatives, friends, and the public at large to so influence them that they cannot live their own lives because they fear criticism. Huge numbers of people make mistakes in marriage, stand by the bargain, and go through life miserable and unhappy because they fear criticism which may follow if they correct the mistake. Anyone who is submitted to this form of fear knows the irreparable damage it does by destroying ambition, self-reliance, and the desire to achieve. Millions of people neglect to acquire belated education after having left school because they fear criticism. Countless numbers of men and women, both young and old, permit relatives to wreck their lives in the name of duty because they fear criticism. Duty does not require any person to submit to the destruction of his personal ambitions and the right to live his own life in his own way. People refuse to take chances in business because they fear the criticism which may follow if they fail. The fear of criticism in such cases is stronger than the desire for success. Too many people refuse to set high goals for themselves or even neglect to select a career because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends who may say, "Don't aim so high, people will think you're crazy." The only breakthrough anyone can afford to rely upon is a self-made break. These come through the application of persistence. The starting point is definiteness of purpose. Today I really want to concentrate on this section on persistence, which is perseverance. How to develop persistence. There are 4 simple ways which lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, but little time or effort. The necessary steps are: 1. A definite purpose backed by burning desire for its fulfillment. 2. A definite plan expressed in continuous action. 3. A mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. 4. A friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. There's a quote sitting right here that I want to read to you. Most people have achieved their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure. That's a Napoleon Hill quote. And if you go back and read Think and Grow Rich in its entirety, you'll learn how one of the main things that he learned when he did his 20-year interviews of 500 of the most important people in America at the time, that almost everyone, without exception, experienced their greatest setback and lowest point in their life immediately preceding the rise to the ultimate success that the world knows them for. That's a very important point. So if you're down, don't worry about it. Everybody else has been down too, but they had the will, the perseverance, the desire to overcome their obstacles and come out of it. Remember that. You can come out of anything. Here's a very profound and truism that I want to read to you. This is in the chapter on, let's see what chapter this is here. The Power of the Mastermind. It's, anyone can wish for riches, and most people do, but only a few know that a definite plan plus a burning desire for wealth are the only dependable means of accumulating wealth. I'm going to move to chapter 5 now on how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. The 6 basic fears that Napoleon Hill details are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. Well, the fear of poverty is considered to be the worst one of them all, and let me read some of that. The fear of poverty. There can be no compromise between poverty and riches. The 2 roads that lead to poverty and riches travel in opposite directions. If you want riches, you must refuse to accept any circumstance that leads toward poverty. And there's a parenthesis here. That's why I'm reading this part. The word riches is here used in its broadest sense, meaning financial, spiritual, mental, and material estates. The starting point of the path that leads to riches is desire. I want to share some more on the fear of criticism. Just how man originally came by this fear, no one can state definitely, but one thing is certain. He has it in a highly developed form. Some believe that this fear made its appearance about the time that politics became a profession. The fear of criticism robs man of his initiative, destroys